This is Pocket Watching with JT.
Hey, Pocket Watchers. Welcome to Pocket Watching with JT. I am certified financial planner, Jayson Thornton. That means I am a real financial advisor. I'm not one of these fake gurus playing one on the internet. No. See, I do this in real life. At my firm, I specialize in tax and retirement planning for my clients. But on YouTube, I react to bad financial advice and scammer news. Let's get straight into it. What are we talking about today? Well, today we're talking about a subject matter that I touched on years ago, and I knew we would end up right where we are today. Before I give a big intro, I'm just going to refresh your memories. Maybe it's been a while for some of you. Maybe some of you are asking the question, what is the Navy federal play? What is it? So sit back, relax. I'm going to show you this video, and you can see for yourself what the Navy federal play is.
But you can also take the credit and go get a line of credit, which is cash.
Okay,
Probably more than that.
I want to hear how would you flip the credit. Give him the mic.
And please talk to them about line of credits too while you're at it. When you get done.
Yeah.
It's even bigger than line of credit. So if you got somebody coming out the street, so we must be straight to a demographic or what you said, you got a lot of niggas that's gonna come out here and be like, I ain't got shit, fuck that credit, right? But in reality, they don't know is that if I come with a bank where I got 50,000 and I'm not willing to trust nobody to invest, what I'm gonna do is I will go to a bank. You can go to Navy Federal, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, they're the best.
You go to Navy Federal right now and apply for an auto loan. You could pull a VIN number off of Car Gurus. They'll give you a loan if you say, okay, look, I'm gonna give you a play. You go in there and say, I need 100,000, right?
What's your credit gotta be?
700 plus, right? I give a blueprint on this show, how to build your credit report out in detail. You go to Navy Federal, say, listen, I need to get 100,000. You get a Car Guru VIN number, and when you get the VIN number, you put it and mark it down 10,000. They cut you the check 24 hours.
A cargo. Say that again.
Car Guru. Just get a VIN number to apply for the loan.
Right.
They're gonna cut you the check 24 hours. You got 90 days to give them the title. If you don't give them the title, it turns into a personal loan. So they just legally gave you the loan. It ain't nothing illegal. It turns to a personal loan. But ain't no way in hell you gonna go to the bank and get a personal loan. So for everybody out there, if you get your credit up, it's free game on this show. Then what happens is, okay, you got 100,000 from the bank.
Go ahead.
Slow down.
Hold on, yo.
We're gonna watch it over and over. Don't worry. Slow that shit down. Do it again. Don't slow. We're gonna watch it over and over.
You just got 100,000 from the bank. It's an auto loan.
Mm-hmm.
It's at 3% for the first 90 days.
3%?
3 to 5%, right?
Damn.
For the first 90 days. After that, it turns to a personal loan. The interest rate go higher. What happens is now you got a bankroll. So now if you want to risk somebody money, risk the bank's money. So when you see a Wall Street trapper, when you see the Earn Your Leisures in the Earners Anonymous, you now can say, okay, well, shit, them folk money anyway. So I'll put 10,000 over there, test it out. See, this is where it now, but what happens is most of us will get the money and go blow it. Instead of going blowing it, you got these white folk money, go invest it. Go figure out and gamble their money. So now instead of rolling dice, you're saying, okay, let me put 10,000 on Ethereum. Let me put 10,000 in Bitcoin and see how it grows. Then you start to learn and then you get comfortable because now that's the beauty of all of us. We got communities where you can come and get with people who look like you, who making the same moves. When you got niggas out the streets making 200,000 a month who look like you off of investing money, flipping less than you had, right? They flipping less than you had, but they making 200,000 a month and they look just like you. Mm-hmm. The issue is education and getting comfortable. But if you ain't comfortable enough to risk what you didn't risk your life for, then go get the white folk money with the credit. Come back and play the game with them. That's how you're going to get to the next level. That's how you earn your leisure.
I'm with him.
Big facts.
We're out both buttons. Yeah, both. I'm with him.
That's why he's here.
Y'all remember y'all asked why we travel with it?
Yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah, fuck that cash. I'm with him. Y'all can get the cash.
Right.
Yeah, I got everything. And I'm finna get this nigga's number as soon as we get out of here. Like, for real. Like, yes.
All right, now, years ago, when I made a reaction video to that little bit of financial education, I got a lot of hate. A lot of people said, JT, you don't know what you're talking about. This is the new wave. You got to understand that you have to give financial education in a way that the street hustler can understand. You got to do what the white folks were doing in order to get ahead. Now, this is what I was told. Now, me being the cornball that I am, the pocket watcher, I said that this was bank fraud, right? This is clearly bank fraud. Now, many people said, well, JT, maybe you're just too much of a hard liner. You just a goody two shoes. This isn't bank fraud. No one will get in trouble with this. Well, let me pull up this indictment that shows that people absolutely do get in trouble for stuff like this. Now, in this indictment, it explains that a pastor who was actually in my home state of Missouri, was running the Navy federal plane. Now, if you take a look at this guy, this individual, I mean, he looks like a hustler. I mean, when you just look at his picture. Now, I'm told that you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover. I get that. But when I see a man like this, ain't no way he's getting my personal information. Ain't no way he's gonna get my full name, social security number, all that. I can't provide that type of information to a man like this. Now, as you see, he is a pastor. And normally pastors have a special place in the Black community. But as I said a couple of weeks ago, you have to separate the difference between the position of a pastor and the role of a financial advisor. All right, you got to pay attention to the difference, right? I have the indictment. I have all of the information here. Now, it's rather lengthy, right? There's a lot of information here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull up the special pocket watcher report that can summarize all the information for you.
A pocket watcher report. In the Eastern District of Missouri, federal authorities have uncovered a significant fraud scheme allegedly targeting Navy Federal Credit Union. At the heart of this complex operation is Kenneth C. Sparks III, a visiting minister at Faith Walk Ministry in Paris, Missouri, along with several co-conspirators. Investigators revealed that Sparks and his associates allegedly executed a scheme to defraud lending institutions out of hundreds of thousands of dollars by taking out fraudulent automobile and personal loans. The indictment states that Sparks's explicit goal, as revealed in his text messages, was to steal $21 million from these institutions and squeeze as much money out of defendant Sparks' parishioners as they could. Here's how the alleged scheme worked. Sparks reportedly gathered personal and banking information from his parishioners and associates, which he then provided to co-conspirator Terrence A. Quaid, residing in the Northern District of Georgia. Quaid then allegedly drafted and submitted fraudulent automobile and personal loan applications in these individuals' names. Both Sparks and Quaid are accused of coaching several parishioners on what lies to tell if the lending institutions inquired about the fraudulent applications. After the funds were dispersed, Sparks allegedly took the vast majority of the fraud proceeds for himself, while Terrence reportedly received a 10% cut plus additional costs for creating fictitious bank statements and pay stubs to support the fraudulent applications. Prosecutors allege that Sparks knowingly took advantage of his parishioners, using them to commit fraud, and even described some as retarded and dyslexic and they don't know how to handle things to Terrence. Among those allegedly involved was Michael S. McLean, the husband of administrative assistant Maya McLean. He is accused of willingly allowing his name to be used for multiple fraudulent loan applications and knowingly participating in Sparks' scheme. Terrence reportedly coached Michael McLean on deceptive tactics, including instructing him to falsely claim he made $75,000 per year as an accountant. Many of these fraudulent loan applications were for automobiles through Navy Federal Credit Union. Terrence allegedly falsely represented that borrowers were purchasing specific vehicles, but in reality, no such purchases occurred. Instead, The loan proceeds were allegedly used to enrich Sparks and Terrence. In total, Sparks and Terrence are accused of taking out at least 10 fraudulent automobile loans amounting to $460,000. These applications were submitted by Quad from various locations, including his Georgia residence and during trips overseas to Ghana. When Michael S. McLean was interviewed by a Navy Federal Credit Union representative on March 14, 2022, he allegedly falsely claimed he applied for the loan without assistance and was unable to correctly answer questions about his employment. He also allegedly falsely claimed to possess a 2021 GMC Sierra, which he had not purchased. Now, to a chilling aspect of this case. When parishioners questioned Harold G. Long, the lead minister, about the loan proceeds in their bank accounts or where the money was going, he reportedly assured them to trust Sparks. However, when parishioners directly confronted Kenneth Sparks with their questions about the fraudulent scheme, he allegedly responded with threats. Prosecutors state that Sparks would threaten parishioners with curses from God and regularly scolded them for questioning a man of God. The indictment details various wire fraud activities, including text messages between Sparks and Terrence exchanging banking information and instructions for fraudulent loan applications. It also includes charges of aggravated identity theft for using parishioners' names in loan applications without authority. Furthermore, Sparks faces numerous money laundering charges. He allegedly required parishioners to provide him with signed checks with no listed payee. He then allegedly had the payees listed in the name of his own companies, such as the Miracle Place International Church and Royal European Day Spa, and deposited these checks into his business accounts to disguise the nature and ownership of the fraudulent proceeds. Specific instances include deposits of thousands of dollars in PPP loan proceeds from individuals like Augustine Harden, parishioner DL, parishioner EF, Javante D. Long, Kimberly Sheft, Maya McLean, Nikisha D. Long, and Rosalind C. West into these accounts. The superseding indictment charges Terrence A. Quaid with wire fraud, conspiracy, and aggravated identity theft. The case is being handled by the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Missouri. Kenneth C. Sparks III, 54, was arrested by the U.S. Marshal Service in Florida. A grand jury indicted Sparks on July 17, 2024, with 1 count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, 8 counts of wire fraud, and 2 counts of aggravated identity theft. Harold G. Long was the lead minister and chief executive officer of the church. Maya M. McLean was administrative assistant, and Javante D. Long was a member. Jeffrey C. Oboit lived in Maryland and operated businesses called Angels Management Group, LLC, Emerald Score, LLC, and ONS Construction, LLC. Oboit and McLean were indicted on 1 count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and 7 counts of wire fraud. Harold Long faces 1 count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and 2 counts of wire fraud. Javante Long faces 1 count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and 1 count of wire fraud. The indictment says Oboit taught Sparks and McLean how to submit fraudulent applications for Paycheck Protection Program (PPP) loans. Oboit and Sparks both submitted or caused to be submitted fraudulent loan applications in their own names and received at least $200,000, the indictment says. Included among those fraudulently obtained loans was nearly $150,000 from the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. The EIDL program was another small business administration program intended to help struggling business owners during the pandemic. The conspirators also obtained more than $1 million in PPP loans in the names of others, the indictment says. Sparks abused his position of authority as a minister by obtaining the trust of church members and then obtained their personal and financial information so he could seek loans in their name. Harold Long assured church members that Sparks could be trusted with that information, the indictment says. Sparks also claimed that he was an apostle of God, whose decisions and decrees could not be questioned, it says. Sparks sometimes told church members that they needed to provide their personal and financial information so he and others could fix their credit scores, the indictment says, or that their information would be used to secure funding for the church. Sparks told McLean to create email addresses in the name of church members and told parishioners to open new accounts at a credit union, it says. Sparks also commissioned the creation of false and fraudulent tax documents, the indictment says. Sparks and Oboite also told McLean and Harold Long to submit fraudulent PPP loan applications for businesses purportedly owned by Long, the indictment says. When suspicious credit union officials froze some of the parishioners' accounts, Sparks and Oboite coached church members on the lies they should tell bank officials to free the funds. Sparks reaped hundreds of thousands of dollars from the scheme, the indictment says, and used the money for luxury vehicles, clothing, and merchandise. Charges set forth in an indictment are merely accusations and do not constitute proof of guilt. Every defendant is presumed to be innocent unless and until proven guilty. Wire fraud is punishable by up to 20 years in prison. Each aggravated identity theft count carries a mandatory consecutive 2-year prison sentence. Anyone with information about pandemic fraud should call the Department of Justice's National Center for Disaster Fraud, NCDF, hotline at 866-720-5721 or report via the NCDF web complaint form at www.justice.gov disaster fraud NCDF disaster complaint form.
All right, so let's summarize this a little quick. I see there's some new people in the chat. They're asking the question, JT, we understand there was a pastor who did a lot of fraudulent loans to Navy Federal, claiming that he was going to buy these cars and all this stuff. He even committed PPP loan fraud. But why do you have the thumbnail that you have for this video? What does one thing have to do with the other? That's what some of you are asking in the chat. So maybe you've been here, not a very long time. You weren't here at the beginning of the live stream. So this is a refresher for those who just jumped in. For those who just jumped in, here's a quick refresher as to why these things connect, right? Check this out.
But you can also take the credit and go get a line of credit, which is cash. Probably more than that.
I want to hear how we just flip the credit. Give him the mic.
Y'all in for a treat. So,
and please talk to them about line of credits too while you're at it. When you get them.
Yeah.
It's even bigger than line of credit. So if you got somebody coming out the street, so we must be straight to a demographic or what you said, you got a lot of niggas that's gonna come out here and be like, I ain't got shit, fuck that credit, right? But in reality, they don't know is that if I come with a bank where I got 50,000 and I'm not willing to trust nobody to invest, what I'm gonna do is I will go to a bank. You can go to Navy Federal, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, they're the best.
You go to Navy Federal right now and apply for an auto loan. You could pull a VIN number off of Car Gurus. They'll give you a loan if you say, okay, look, I'm gonna get y'all to play. You go in there and say, I need 100,000, right?
What's your credit gotta be?
700 plus, right? I give a blueprint on this show how to build your credit report out in detail. You go to Navy Federal, say, listen, I need to get 100,000. You get a Car Guru VIN number, and when you get the VIN number, you put it and mark it down 10,000. They cut you the check 24 hours.
A cargo, say that again.
Car Guru. Just get a VIN number to apply for the loan.
Right.
They're gonna cut you the check 24 hours. You got 90 days to give them the title. If you don't give them the title, it turns into a personal loan. So they just legally gave you the loan. It ain't nothing illegal. It turns to a personal loan. But ain't no way in hell you can go to the bank and get a personal loan. So for everybody out there, if you get your credit up, it's free game on this show. Then what happens is, okay, you got 100,000 from the bank.
Slow down.
Yeah.
Hold on, yo.
Slow down. Makes sense, though.
We gonna watch it over and over. Don't worry. Slow that shit down. Do it again. Don't slow. We gonna watch it over and over.
You just got 100,000 from the bank. It's an auto loan. It's at 3% for the first 90 days.
3%?
3 to 5%, right?
Damn.
For the first 90 days. After that, it turns to a personal loan. The interest rate go higher. What happens is now you got a bankroll. So now if you want to risk somebody money, risk the bank's money. So when you see a Wall Street trapper, when you see the Earn Your Leisures in the Earners Anonymous, you now can say, okay, well, shit, them folk money anyway. So I'll put 10,000 over there, test it out. See, this is where it now, but what happens is most of us will get the money and go blow it. Instead of going blowing it, you got these white folk money, go invest it. Go figure out and gamble their money. So now instead of rolling dice, you're saying, okay, let me put 10,000 on Ethereum. Let me put 10,000 in Bitcoin and see how it grows. Then you start to learn and then you get comfortable because now that's the beauty of all of us. We got communities where you can come and get with people who look like you, who making the same moves. When you got niggas out the streets making 200,000 a month who look like you off of investing money, flipping less than you had, right? They flipping less than you had, but they making 200,000 a month and they look just like you. The issue is education and getting comfortable. But if you ain't comfortable enough to risk what you didn't risk your life for, then go get the white folk money with the credit. Come back and play the game with them. That's how you're going to get to the next level. That's how you earn your leisure.
I'm with him.
Big facts.
We're out both buttons. Yeah, both. I'm with him.
That's why he's here.
Y'all remember y'all asked why we travel with each other?
Yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah, fuck that cash. I'm with them. Y'all can get the cash.
Right.
I got everything. And I'm finna get this nigga's number as soon as we get out of here. Like, for real. Like, yes, respectfully.
That's how you earn your leisure, is what they said. And everybody applaud. Rashad, the other guy, the whole crew. That's how you earn your leisure. Now, once again, I understand that there's people out there, you're still skeptics. You're still saying to yourself, JT, okay, they talked about, basically scamming Navy Federal with auto loans on this show a few years ago. Then a man did it, okay? But there's a possibility that the guy in this story, he has no idea who M500 is. Maybe he came up with this scheme all on his own. You cannot disregard the criminal intent of this particular pastor and the people he was working with. Maybe they figured out the scam on their own and it had nothing to do with EYL and him 500. I hear that and I get that. But here's the problem. The problem is this. Shouts out to Tony the Closer. He's in the house. You will be hearing from him and my brother Eli from What Happened to Common Sense in a few moments. But I just got to show you that it's just not me with my tinfoil hat. It's not pocket watcher conspiracy theory. Look at the name of the person who DM'd Tony the Closer. Terrence Quaid. Terrence Quaid was a part of the scam according to the indictment. Remember the story. It was the pastor and a lot of Terrence working together with this Navy Federal thing. Now, this is a DM that Terrence sent to Tony. In this DM, let me blow this up. Make sure you can see this. He says, yo, what's up, Tony? Thanks to Marcus, him 500, I am fighting a federal case now because of the Navy Federal auto loan play he taught us. There it is. There it is. Now, this is just one man who's currently dealing with the feds, but based on what he's telling Tony, I am fighting a federal case right now because of the Navy Federal auto loan play he taught us, man. I should have just kept doing wholesale, right? Wholesale and real estate. That's something that Tony the Closer teaches. Is that I am in Rona proof and I have HUDs too. So apparently, from what he's saying, I was making money doing something that was legitimate that you was teaching us, Tony. But then I decided to jump on the HIM 500 in the EYL train, and now he's fighting feds. That's not it. That's not it. We also have apparently, we have a plea agreement that this man is currently working out with the feds. Looks legitimate to me. Could be capping, as the kids say, but it looks pretty legitimate to me that this is the gentleman that is a part of this whole case. He's claiming that all of this came from the knowledge, the wisdom, the financial strategies of HIM 500 that you just saw on video. And now the man is facing years and years behind bars because of it. All right, well, enough of me. Let me remove myself from it. Let me bring up a couple of my brothers. I've got Eli from What Happened to Common Sense, and I have Tony, the closer here. What's going on, fella? It's been a minute since we've all been on cam together.
I think it's been almost 2 years since you and I actually did a live stream back when the whole Caesar and big business stuff was going on, and the whole DJ Envy fiasco that fell apart. But what I really want to highlight here is one of the reasons why I fell back from even making this type of content is that it gets to the point where everything gets blurred, right? Where because this stuff gets amplified by platforms like EYL, and there's so many people that are getting caught up in these different scams and schemes, that everyone that's selling a course, that's doing mentorship, that's educating, or that's an influencer gets labeled as a scammer.
Right.
And this is why platforms like this is important, not just to cover this information, but to teach you the difference between how to legitimately go and get funding, how to legitimately apply for government grants and government programs and government loans, versus how to fraudulently do it. And this is one of the problems with EYL. What pissed me off about them, and which why we started kind of going at them, is because when you bring this to them and you say, hey, you have a responsibility not just to take the video down, but to educate people as to why this is fraud, why this is bad, and what the ramifications will be if you engage in this activity. Because if you look at the Navy Federal quote unquote play, it's legitimate in regards to if you go apply for an auto loan and you don't get the auto loan, meaning you actually fill out the application yourself, you put down the correct information, the right income, and you apply for it. If you don't get it, then it does turn into a personal loan. That's legit. But what happens is that we have a culture in the Black community, the urban sector, that we have to niggify everything. we have to take it and make it some street play, hustle, getting over on the man. Because notice, he said, you got a guy that's coming home from jail, fresh out. See, they know who they're tailoring this for and who they're going after. And see, that's part of the part two that's so insidious about this, is they're going after people who are going to be attracted to the criminal aspect and element of this, which is predatory in nature, because you're not letting these people know that what you're, first of all, how he phrased it is completely fraudulent. You can't take someone else's VIN number off their car and then go get an auto loan with that. So that right there, you're starting off with fraud. Right? The auto loan is for you to go apply, to go use it for a car. And if you don't, it turns into a personal loan, not for you to go steal someone's VIN number. Now, because he started teaching that, everyone started running the Navy Federal play. What started happening now was that people started trying to fill out applications for other people, taking other people's information. So Navy Federal changed their policy because of so much fraud that was going on. Understand, people, I'm in the funding space. I'm in the credit repair space. If you fill out an application for a loan for someone, you are committing fraud. You cannot fill out an application for someone to apply for a loan. You are committing fraud. Unless you have power of attorney or some type of legal precedence, you are committing fraud. So when people tell you that they can go get you funding and they're going to do all of the filling out the application for you, that is fraud. And what happened was Navy Federal completely changed that policy because so many people were not using the money for the car. They was using the money to go and get funding with it. And when people say, well, why are y'all making this content? Why are you trying to tear Black brother down? No one's trying to tear anyone down. Instead, what we're trying to do is we're trying to educate you so that, yes, you want to go get funding. There's legitimate ways for you to go out here and get funding on your own. And if you're going to be working with someone, you need to figure out, does this person have a criminal background? Because that could be red flag number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? In the case of the guy, Kenneth Sparks,
right?
Not only was he the pastor,
yes,
not only was he convicted of a felony in 2014, but in 2019 he was indicted again prior to him starting this whole church funding scheme. And see, again, notice what Him 500 said. You got a dude that just came out of jail. See, I'm not trying to tear our Black brothers and sisters down who are trying to rehabilitate yourself, but committing bank fraud is not positive. See, we have to get out of this mindset that just because a person puts on a suit and they start talking articulately, that somehow they're doing something positive. There's nothing positive about committing bank fraud and teaching other people to do that and then charging them $5,000. See, this is what's even sick about this, is the recession-proof course was $5,000. So now you have a man who's predatorily targeting urban minorities.
Right.
And then what he's doing is, even if they can't necessarily, you don't have the money, they'll go get you the funding from a Navy Federal and then charge you the 10% plus the $5,000 to buy their course. So you're now paying somebody 10% to commit fraud in your name. And then they're turning around and charging you $5,000 for you to go learn how to go and do the same thing. And now the connection between Him 500, EYL, and JT, and myself and Tony, is that when we see this and we say, hey, guys, it's one thing you playing in the gray area. This shit is getting out of, you're on a nationally syndicated podcast. And everyone in the room is, I need this nigga's number. Think about this lady is saying, I need this nigga's number now. Not right now, but now. I need to know how to commit fraud today. Right? But see, when you come in there and you talk to them about something that's legitimate, that they could build with, they don't want to hear that. And then Rashad goes, yeah, that's the most dangerous man on the internet.
Oh my God.
Right? That's part of the problem, right? And because he's so caught in his ego that when you try to call him on it, they just move right on like nothing ever happened. And then this is the fallout, because trust me, I said this 2 years ago, and everybody called me a hater. The feds is in all of your discords. They're in all your school communities. I want you to understand that a lot of the crimes that you've committed, you still fall within that statute of limitations. And they're just simply sitting back building a case. So just like that guy, Terrence, pleaded, many of you are going to be facing the same thing. And I promise you, most of these podcast platforms will be doing the same thing.
Oh, yeah. We got another story for another day about the other podcast who's probably sitting in jail right now with his own scam. But I want to bring up Tony, because Tony helped weave this whole thing together, right? Now, we knew 1 + 1 = 2, but because this particular brother, Terrence, jumped in his DMs, we know for a fact that the things are connected. So we have Tony. Tony, the closer, is in the building. What's going on, Tony?
Pocket Watcher, what's up, man? What's up, Eli?
What's good?
Eli hit everything dead on. I think one of the things that I just want to kind of highlight, because this is what typically happens. Not only was that a EYL podcast, that was the Big Facts podcast.
Right.
One of the bigger podcasts in Atlanta, hip hop urban community. If you understand the dynamics of who is listening and who will be willing to take those risks, are typically those type of people that listen to those shows. So now what happened, and just like the young man that DM'd me, he said, man, I've never been in trouble in my entire life. He's facing a 7-year plea deal right now currently. what Him 500 was teaching inside of recession proof, and Terrence told me basically he had been in recession proof. He said that was a play that had already been given to the community for almost a year inside of recession proof. So they had already been doing it. In addition to that, he had taught all of his students how to basically become credit repair coaches or influencers. So not only was he giving out bad advice, but he was making duplicates of himself. So this guy goes out and becomes a lower version of a Him 500 who begins doing other people's credit and doing the Navy Fed play. And that's how he had multiple loans, and he got identity theft and a couple other charges in this actual case. Now, back when this thing first happened in 2021 or whatever, when I called Him 500 out about, hey man, this is fraud. Like, this is clear fraud. I watched how Gilly and so many other people rallied around Him 500, edifying that actual post.
They was 100% defending him. I remember Rashad made a post where he was posting documents from Navy Federal saying, no, this is legit. I remember that.
They took a screenshot from the Navy Federal's website. And then Him 500 even made a post. And in the post, he basically said, haters will say it's fraud to scare y'all, when in reality, they're just hating on me. That was that was the caption to the post where he put the Navy Federal screenshot. And this is why I say it's very scary how you can manipulate media in the black space. EYL is a media company / financial literacy podcast who has millions of listeners. They got a huge reach.
Right.
When they co-signed Him 500, who was already another, and this is the cycle of what we see in the financial literacy space. It becomes a fraudster who found a new way, and now he's showing everybody else this new way, and you pay him that significant amount of money to learn his strategy. So now you got the biggest financial literacy group in the black space co-signing a complete fraud. And then not only that, they're co-signing a fraudulent play on national podcasts as well. So when you give warnings from, first off, I said something, and then JT, you did a full breakdown after that. Eli and I mean, there were multiple people that all immediately said, hey, wait a minute, guys, this is fraud. And I said, somebody's mom or somebody's uncle or somebody's going to follow this information. They're going to end up in jail. And everybody's like, Tony, you just trying to hate because he's getting more attention than you. And I was like, wait a minute, guys. First off, like, this isn't about attention. It's right and wrong. And the reality is, as a coach or a mentor, your responsibility is to give your people that trust you information that, first off, is legitimate information that won't wind them up in jail. Give them information that's actually credible, that can be beneficial to them. So you have a responsibility to honor your influence. I always say that. And I know sometimes people get turned off because my delivery becomes very harsh. But the reality is, I think that you need to have somebody that comes in and says, hey, that's bullshit. These guys are doing things that are going to put people in harm's way. And now you're talking about people now are going to be without their family for 7 years. That's the plea deal. 7. We're not talking about, oh, you're getting a pop on the wrist because, oh, you didn't know and my mentor taught me this. No, go sit down for 7 years and think about the decisions that you made that you paid $5,000 for. So when we start looking at discrediting, hey, JT's a clout chaser, Eli's a hater, Tony's trying to tear black men down. Now, when you see these real life examples of when shit really goes bad, because at first, all these things are warnings. When you hear JT, Eli, and myself say something, it's a warning. Be forewarned what could potentially happen. And most people say, hey, there's nothing going to happen. It'll be all right. But now the reality is that the government is now going back and they're finding all these people that play with EDD money, PPP money, and all these other things, and they're coming back and they're getting that money and they're locking people up. If you're doing these plays, Navy play, and all these other credit repair sweeps and things that are illegal, filing FTC affidavits illegally, saying that you were sexually trafficked, all these different weird things that they put in these.
That's the craziest one. When you and Eli told me that there's people teaching in order to get something off of your credit report, right? Get something off your credit report, claim that you were sexually trafficked. That's crazy.
But this goes to show you, and one of the things I want to highlight is what him 500 said, and I hope that we can shake this thought process. This them white folks' money. Yo, that's the most ignorant shit. And it's so frustrating to hear people that continuously fall for, well, the white people do it, or that's how the white people built America. Man, they are setting you up for failure. And to have a thought process that that's them white folks' money and I can go run a play and I can try a Bitcoin or this or that. Like, listen to this is what some people are paying this man $5,000+ or more to learn that type of shit. This is like, and I'm gonna just keep it real for my street niggas. The niggas that really been outside and you done ran some plays, you done been in the streets, you done CPNs and all that stuff. Immediately you knew what it was. Anybody that ever played on the dirty side of the fence or been around those type of people, you know what he was teaching. All of it's illegal. And it's good until it ain't. See, the problem is I think a lot of people think that, hey, listen, man, nobody gets in trouble. It's all good. Sometimes it might take 3, 4, 5 years and you feel like you straight. No consequence at first. So you feel like, oh, that play we ran it, it worked. And then guess what happens? You get in the group and the guy goes, well, I learned this inside of recession proof. And these niggas is giving me 7 years. I'm about to tell on the whole damn group. Because niggas don't think about that part. You got somebody to say, hey, look, you about to get 7 years plus 20 years or whatever they start talking. Oh, no, man, the dude, him 500, Marcus Barney, yeah, he the one that taught us this. And I'm going to give you the login and the details. And this is the person that showed me how to do it. And this is the man, you crazy if you think that ain't happening. You crazy if you think that ain't happening.
Yeah, it's listen.
Because if I took your advice, if I paid you $5,000 for it, and I'm about to get locked up, oh, no, yeah, I got that from Eli.
But here's the problem with that, right? Here's the problem. And, we also got to be honest when we're having these conversations. A lot of the stuff that Terrence was doing was absolutely illegal and fraudulent. And whether him 500 taught him those things or not, you cannot be out here lying on applications, presenting false tax returns, going out here lying about people's occupation status and actually filling out the applications. And literally, there's communication with him and the guy, Sparks, where he said, I'm going to squeeze them for as much money as possible. So at this point, like you said, you kind of know what you're doing. Him and the guy, the pastor, were trying to squeeze these people for everything that they could get. And in most cases, these people didn't even know that they were applying for auto loans. So see, this is where, you could play the whole, I didn't know, I was just running the him 500 play. Homie, you know what you're doing too, right? And you got to take accountability for the fact that you was out here trying to squeeze these people for every dollar you could. And that you were also out here applying for things and acting as if you were the individuals, the parishioners from the church, and that's what some of the stuff I want to get to, some of the actual, the court documents, because I think that this is very, very telling in regards to what's going on. Let me share my screen real quick. I kind of highlighted a few things, and I think that this is very, very important. Share my screen. And I want to share the entire screen here. Boom. Can you see my screen now, JT?
Yep. Second it pops up. Here we go. All right. Give me 1 second to remove this. Pull it up. Okay.
Right. So the very first thing is that look at the name of the actual entity that the defendant, Kenneth C. Sparks, this is the actual pastor, right? Because if you look at people like Jay Morrison, right, or you look at someone like this pastor, there's a lot of similarities in how people try to use affinity fraud to get you to let your guard down, to get you to participate in things that you just know outright don't make any sense. The name of the entity was Faith Walk Ministry. So right there alone, that becomes part of the problem. Now, this is the pastor who's the head of everything. And I want to highlight something here that's very, very important. Defendant Sparks worked as a visiting minister at Faith Walk Ministry, a church in Paris, Missouri. Defendant Sparks was convicted of a felony offense on about May 23rd, 2014. And he was placed on parole for that felony offense on about July 26, 2017. Sparks then was indicted for another felony on October 30th, 2019. So Terrence, who's trying to play I'm the innocent guy, is clearly partnering up with a pastor that's a convicted felon. He's a career criminal. Right? So what can we learn from this? When you're doing business with someone, the very first thing you need to know is, have you been to prison before? And if so, what did you go for? Because see, now this sets the table for you to be a part. We talk about a lot of the RICO stuff going on, criminal enterprise. The fact that you have a criminal at the head of the organization already starts from an optics standpoint of being bad. Now, they then start to engage in filing for a bunch of PPP money, right? Mm-hmm. Now, one of the problems with the PPP money is that you cannot be a convicted felon, and you cannot currently be under indictment.
Right.
So,
and let's be clear. Hold on, I just want to be clear. It was explicitly written.
I got it right here.
The first page when you were filling out the application for the loan. It's not as if it was deep in the fine print. No, it was up in front, letting you know, if you are a convicted felon or under indictment, you do not qualify for this loan. And I learned from Eli, not only was he a convicted felon, he was a convicted felon that was also under indictment at the same time.
Yes. So right here, it says, for all PPP loan applications submitted as part of the scheme outlined below, the application asked whether the applicant, if an individual or any owner of the applicant, presently incarcerated or for any felony presently subjected to an indictment, criminal information, arraignment, or other means by which formal criminal charges are brought in any jurisdiction. So, in layman's terms, when you're signing up for the PPP, the very first thing they ask you, are you a convicted felon? And are you currently going through any indictments or arraignments? So now the guy Terrence, who's just, I just ran the Navy Federal play. No, you're in business with a con man, with a career criminal. Because in 2020, while they're filing for all of this PPP money, about 6 months ago, he just got indicted. So when people say, oh, yeah, you just got to come from the streets and, we just got to go out here and run the play, you're running the play straight to prison. And if you are an upstanding guy and you're just trying to make a quick buck, you need to understand who you're doing business with, because now you're in bed with a career criminal. So now how can you tell the feds, oh, I didn't know? When clearly in the communications, you're saying, I'm going to squeeze the parishioners for everything they got. So clearly you were criminal minded as well, and you were working with the criminal. And even if that's not the truth, it doesn't matter. That's how it looks.
Oh my Lord. All right. So just to summarize, to make sure that I understand what's going on. We have a pastor. We also have, I think, his administrative assistant. We also got this guy, Terrence, that are running Navy Federal plays. They're also getting PPP loan money, and they are using the parishioners, the people of this pastor's church, personal information to facilitate both crimes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right now, guys, I also want to educate you because, see, this is important, right? Because, again, I'm in the funding space. There's something known as no doc funding, and then there's doc funding.
Mm-hmm.
No doc funding means you don't have to provide bank statements or tax returns, because certain banks like Chase, they have lending programs for new businesses to get access to capital. Because if you're a new business,
you don't have any track record.
You don't have any track record, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there are loans, grants, like the EIDL, like the PPP, like the SBA. They implicitly let you know you have to provide documents. So right here it says the annual income and expenditures for sole proprietorships as reported by the Internal Revenue Service on Form 1040 Schedule C for a given tax year. So now, again, like Tony was saying, you're a street dude, you're a real one. See, I'm a square, I'm a cornball. I know what I know. The minute that you start falsifying a Schedule C, most of you probably don't even know what that is. You are immediately committing fraud.
And here's the crazy part. For those of you who are uninitiated, you don't know what we're talking about, okay? The Schedule C form is the profit and loss statement for sole proprietors. These are business owners that own 100% of their business, and they do not file as a corporation, be it C Corp, S Corp, and they're not a partnership filing a 1065 partnership tax return. Most small businesses fall under sole proprietor Schedule C 1040. Here's the issue. You were supposed to report your income from 2019. All right, so just to be clear, you're reporting your income from 2019, a year that was probably already filed, right? But you're submitting this fake form that you never actually gave to the IRS in the first place. So sooner or later, common sense will say the SBA or the IRS are going to cross-reference with each other. The numbers that I gave one agency, they're going to check with the other agency. So you're either lying to both, or you're telling the truth to one and lying to the other, and easily getting caught up. Easily.
And at this point, so that's what I was trying to say. This whole idea that these were just innocent people who just got caught up following the wrong stuff. No, this is intentionally committing fraud, right? Because again, on a no doc application, you can go of stated income. Right. I actually work with relationship managers at the bank. Mm-hmm. I'm working with a banker. So when I'm working with a client and we're submitting an application, a banker's looking it over to make sure that it's legitimate. That's a no doc funding program, which is why they tell you that if you want to get an SBA loan or anything, you have to provide documents. And they let you know, right, that you cannot falsify these documents. And in most cases, in order for you to get tax documents, an actual CPA has to sign off on the documents saying that, hey, I certify that this information is legitimate. So the fact that you're not using a legitimate tax preparer to actually sign off on these documents, you are now committing bank fraud.
No, that's factual, man. A lot of times when clients come to me, maybe they're getting a mortgage or something like that, especially when you're self-employed. Like a lot of people, if you haven't gone through the mortgage process, you don't understand how heavy the paperwork is. But when you are self-employed and you're trying to get a mortgage and you're using money from the business to help pay for your down payment or whatever it is for the home, the bank normally asks for your accountant, your advisor, whoever, to sign off saying the money that you're using from the business going into the company is not going to severely damage the operations of the business. Why? The point is this. You're saying that you're going to pay the mortgage with the money that you're making for the business. But if you have to pull a bunch of money out of the business to be able to make the down payment, now the bank's afraid that you won't be able to actually operate with a profit with the business and pay the mortgage. So I normally get a request around the time that most people are trying to get, mortgages. I'm getting 3 or 4 or 5 requests within 1 month from clients saying, hey, sign off that the $50,000 that I'm taking from the business account to help make my down payment for this house is not going to severely damage the operation of the business. So yeah, they have us sign off to say, yes, this is a legitimate tax return. This is a legitimate business owner. And if you don't have a relationship like that with a real professional, you need to get one, or you're going to end up like this.
And this is why it's also important on platforms like this to understand, guys, you got to have your shit in order with your business. You got to properly be accounting for money. Where is it coming from? Because I promise you, you're going to have an audit. If you're actually working with an actual accounting firm, you have to account for every single transaction in your business bank account. I operate a big business. Trust me, I know. And you can't just be Zelling and Apple Cashing and Cash Apping. They want to know where this money is going and who it's coming from. And you can't just say it's all like, oh, it's just, it's entertainment. No, because you will get audited by the IRS. So think about it. You have $20,000 coming into your business bank account. Because in this case, with this individual right here, the guy, Defendant Obote, it says specifically in furtherance of the scheme to defraud on or about August 5th, 2020, Obote submitted a fraudulent sole proprietor PPP loan application to Cross River Bank, a participating PPP lender. In his fraudulent PPP loan application, Defendant Obote inflated his average monthly payroll that he purported made as a consultant to receive the maximum amount in his PPP loan. So he's lying about his expenses, right?
And this is, he was applying for, if I remember correctly, if I get it wrong, correct me. He was applying for the sole proprietorship where the max was the 20,800 and whatever. So what they're talking about is he's overinflating what the actual money he was making. Because in this situation, he wasn't getting a PPP loan for his employees. He's getting the maximum PPP loan for himself, which was the $20,833. I did a video where we were showing, what's it, dude? What's the guy's name? The guy with the BBL. What's the B? Kevo. Yeah. My bad. I don't want to call you by the BBL, but it's just that's a frame of reference. Please, right. I'm not trying to talk about you. But right. Okay, Kevo, Bandman Kevo had a straight series of telling people exactly what dollar amount to put on what tax form to get the maximum of the sole proprietor PPP loan, which was the $20,833. So clearly, you know something's wrong. You are overstating your own income in order to get
Somebody has an echo. Somebody has an echo. I think that's you, Tony.
Got it. Okay, we're good.
Yeah. Now, guys, again, because see, people are trying to play I'm just a black man. I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't understand. So you inflated your numbers to get one PPP loan, but it gets better. Once he was able to get the first one, guess what they did? They turned around. Furthermore, on about February 23rd, 2021, Obote submitted another fraudulent sole proprietor PPP loan application to the same bank. To the same bank. Guys, there's legitimate funding, there's legitimate getting PPP money, and then there's fraud. See, this is what starts to happen because people start to, everybody that does funding, everyone that does credit repairs. No, it's not. No, it's not. There are people who know how to follow the law, and you get one PPP loan. And then there are people who lie on applications and then use another entity to go get a second PPP loan.
From the same bank.
From the same bank. From the same bank. This is why I say time and time again, these niggas are slow. Because if you're going to be a criminal, at least try to be a smart criminal.
So I think we agree 100% on this. When it comes to these people think that they're actually like scammers, like they actually think they're finessing the bank. If it wasn't for the internet, if it wasn't for the easy access to be able to fill out these forms, these guys would just be on the street corner trying to stick up old ladies. Because this is the mind and energy level of a person who's doing basic street crime that they don't understand that even if you're that's like trying to rob the same bank in the same week. right? Like you get away with robbing a bank, then you spin the block and come back to the same bank the same week and try to hit them up again. This is so stupid.
Right.
But we actually have to explain this.
But it gets better, right? See, it gets better because now this individual here, Sparks, he says, man, listen, we running a play. We done ran it 2 times. Why not? Let's go a 3rd time. So, in addition, in support of his fraudulent PPP loan application, defendant Sparks submitted or caused to submit a false and fraudulent Schedule C again, which was never filed with the IRS and which included gross receipts that did not earn from a sole proprietorship consulting business. So now him and the other guy, they're like, listen, man, we done ran the play 3 times, right? What we're going to do now is we're actually, and look, this is him taking selfies. This is him taking selfies. The same thing. And he's posing for the camera like, yeah. 3 times, 3 poses for 3 times of running the play on against the bank. I mean, it doesn't get any more foolish than this. Now, mind you, why am I bringing this up? Because this money is getting wired to business checking accounts. And I want to educate you guys because I went through this personally. So I'm speaking, when you get all of this money to your bank account, even if you decide not to file that money, the bank, especially any transaction over $10,000, after a certain amount of time, they're going to alert the IRS.
Yeah.
So when you're getting this 20,000, 20,000, 20, you can think you're smart and you're putting it in different banks. The actual bank, the bank that's sending you the money, they're going to notify the IRS because they have to do their own accounting and bookkeeping. Right. And then the bank that receives the money, they're going to notify the IRS. So not only are you falsifying tax documentation, but then you're not properly filing that you've received this money in the first place.
Yeah.
So now you're committing multiple instances of fraud.
Yeah. And real quick, I don't want people to get too smart and think that they're going to outsmart the system. The number is around like $10,000. Whenever you do a transaction of just $10,000, there is a reporting requirement. But for those of you, hustlers out there who think you're smart and you're just going to be pushing around money that's like $9,000 and less, that's called structuring. They're going to report that. If you have so many transactions that are just a little bit under the $10,000 mark, they're going to get you too because it's called structuring. So you're best off not trying to do fraud at all because they're going to get you regardless.
So now they run the play 3 times. The guy Sparks and Obote, right? So they say, you know what? We're now going to use this on our church members. And see, this is part of the problem. Never mix your emotions and your faith with business and investing, right? Business is objective. It's numbers. You're borrowing money. There's an interest rate affiliated and attached to it, right? Yep. The money has to be paid. This is not free money. Like I tell clients all the time, everyone on the internet wants you to think you're going to start an LLC. You're going to get $100,000 and it's just free money. It's not free money. This is money that has to be paid back. So when you are borrowing $90,000, $100,000, $200,000, this is money that has to be paid back. And if you don't have the means or you don't have a business idea, because let me explain something to you, you can lose money in business. Business is very difficult. Business is very hard. Okay. And when you start getting yourself into certain amounts of debt, if you don't have the cash flow and the revenue coming in, you will not be able to service the debt. So
it doesn't matter the loan. Now, I know you help people get loans and whatnot, but I normally tell clients when they first start out with a business, you need to fund it with your own money because people treat their money and borrowed money totally different. And if you're starting out, in the baby phase of your business, I normally tell clients, don't try to get business funding right off the bat because you need to learn lessons with your own money so that when you then go to the point where you do need to borrow money, you're going to already know the do's and don'ts, right? Normally I tell clients it's smart to borrow money if that money is actually fueling revenue coming in, right? So a real quick example, right? Let's say you've got a small business and you're selling widgets, right? Widgets are just a term that we use for items that you sell. You're selling widgets, and all of a sudden you get an order for 1 million widgets. Normally, you don't have enough money to buy wholesale 1 million widgets. So I would say, let's go get a loan so you can buy the 1 million widgets so that you can then sell the widgets. That's a quick turnaround of the cash flow. But people, when you want operating capital and your business isn't even cash flowing to the point where you're profitable, most people fail because they start to live off that so-called operating capital. I mean, you can give your experience, Eli. I mean, you're in that more, but I just feel like if they don't have a profitable business, doesn't have to be millions of dollars. You can be profiting 30,000, 20,000. But if you don't have a profitable business, operating capital can kill you.
I had a client the other day that she was asking me a lot of questions.
Right.
You know, what about this? What about that? You know, what if I only want 50,000 instead of 100? How many banks are we going to go to? And I said, you seem very apprehensive. Like you're not quite sure what you're really going to do with the money.
Right.
Right. Or you don't really trust me, or you have maybe some angst about the whole process. I said, you know what? I don't think that we should move forward.
Right.
And she was like, what, you got a problem with me because I'm asking questions? No, it's not the questions that you're asking. It's the tone and the nature in which you're asking them, as if you're not sure. So you should not move forward. See, I understand you can have one client and you could get them $200,000-$300,000, and that's great. You don't got to be greedy and go for every dollar. See, this is part of the problem right now in the funding and credit repair space as well, because you got people selling things and selling lies or selling things that they don't really know that they can do just to make a quick buck. And then you get somebody's money and you've oversold them, and they're expecting to get their credit clean in 4 days, or they're expecting to get 100K, right? Or 50K, or you're kind of trying to talk them into getting the funding. I want to work with who wants to work with me.
Right. I mean, to me, it's like, it should be someone that has a business plan. Like, if you don't know what you're going to do, like, I think one of the worst things they can do is say, give me $100,000 and I'll figure it out. Most of you won't. I mean, let me be extremely clear. I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for Eli. Let me solo cam this. I'm speaking for myself. Most of you do not know what to do with $50,000, $100,000, $1 million, unless it's not a loan. If money just drops in your lap, then okay, you can have that. But if it's tied to debt, most of you will end up blowing the money. You may blow the money on personal stuff, or you may blow the money legitimately trying to get a business to be functional and profitable, but you will fail because most businesses fail. Just because you throw money at a business does not mean it's going to be successful. Those two things are not a one-for-one. You take a business, you give it $1 million. Oh, there's no way that they can fail. Of course they can fail. They can fail just the same as if they had no money in the bank or if they had $1 million in the bank, because you don't know what to do with it. You do not have some sort of product or service that's in demand to the point where you're selling it and you have a profit margin that is sustainable. That is a business. A business is an exchange of value. I either have a product, a service, or both that some audience of people, some group of people demand. They want either my product, my service, or a combination of the two. They are willing to pay for that product or service at a price where when I produce the product or service, it's a profit for me. Let's say it costs me $100 to provide this product or service. They're willing to buy it at $250. Whatever it is, I have a profit margin, okay? Otherwise, you're going to fail. Not only will you fail, you'll fail and still have to pay off the debt, because most of you will have to do a personal guarantee on the debt because your business is just too damn new. But Eli, please.
And also to understand, if I'm charging you 10% of the funding, you're already starting in the red and in the hole. right? So this is why
you only get 90% of the total money.
Of the money, right?
But you gotta
So
pay back 100% at
this
interest.
is why it's important when you're working with someone to understand that they know what they're doing. Because see, again, a lot of this stuff, like in the case of the Terrence guy, I said this earlier, you could play the whole game. Him 500 taught me, brother, you knew what you were doing when you said to the guy, Sparks, see, you don't end up working with someone like Sparks unless you like him. You just don't, right? Birds of the feather flock together.
Yep.
And the fact that you were saying to him, I'm going to squeeze these people for everything, and he's telling you that these people are dyslexic and slow, Sparks, that means that you guys know that you're getting over. See, there has to be a line of ethics in business as well, too. Don't get it twisted. I'm here to make that 10%. But if I think that you're dyslexic and slow, should I make that 10% on you? See, this is why these conversations are important, because what happens is that everyone just wants to make a buck. And then what happens is that now the whole credit repair industry, the whole funding industry gets labeled as a scam. Right. Because you have all of these people who come from the streets and they are criminal minded in how they think and behave. So to them, it's just a finesse. It's just a play. But you got to understand, you're putting someone in the whole 10% from the start. So if you get them $200,000, $300,000, they're already in the whole 30K, 20K. And I remember that interest rate on those credit cards, it goes up to 22% in 6 months and 12 months. And as JT was saying, most of you are not going to be profitable in that time period. So now you're putting yourself in the hole for a business that you don't really understand. And what most of these guys are doing that's so predatory is they're getting you the funding, and then they're charging you an additional $20,000 to mentor you, to teach you how to do Airbnb, to teach you how to go do real estate, to teach you how to go out here and run your own credit repair company. So when it's all said, because see, they always brag about, I made $35 million in a year. You know, I'm him. I'm that guy. You made $35 million because, see, I got you 50K. Well, now I got to devise a bunch of schemes to get you to keep paying me because I know you got the money, right? And see, you being gullible, you go, oh shit, he got me $50,000. So imagine if I give him the 50, he may get me $500,000, because see, you're thinking in terms of flipping, right? He's understanding that I'm getting you for this money, and now you're on the hook to pay all this money back. Oh my God. When you see Myron Golden say he made $25 million in a day, $50 million in a day, or whatever the number was, I don't know the exact number. How do you think these guys are making that type of money? Because they're getting you funding and they're charging you high ticket. Well, I can make any price if I got you 50K. Yeah, you know, my mentorship is $10,000. Now, again, I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. I'm saying to you, you as a business owner, you got to operate in your integrity. This is where Tony comes into play, because Tony gets a bad rap because he stands on his principles. He stands on his morals. And some things you just got to say no to. Yeah, it's profitable. Yeah, I can make the money, but should I make the money? Should I charge you the 10% knowing that you don't really know what you're buying or what you're getting into? Should I then turn around and charge you $25,000 for a mentorship, knowing that I don't even make money with the mentorship that I'm teaching you? Like, think about it. You have people teaching you how to become a millionaire in an industry that they haven't become a millionaire in an industry. They've become a millionaire by selling you how to become a millionaire in the industry. And so many of you missed that. Did you make $1 million from real estate, or did you make $1 million from selling people the real estate, selling people the Airbnb, selling people the Toro? And that's what happens in most of these cases. So they're only making money selling you, in that they don't have any real tangible results. They don't have any time in the game. They don't even have successful students. Like, for example, I trade. I have some students that have made more money than me. Well, if you haven't made the money, can you show some of the students that's actually made the money with you? And in most cases, these people can't do that.
Oh my God. So I want something to soak in just for a second for what you said. They help you get the funding. First, you probably paid for a course. Let's say $5,000, right? So you paid for a course for $5,000. They help you get funding of $50,000 on high interest credit cards. But now you can buy their mastermind that's $10 or $15 or $20,000, right? So you're already so low. I mean, you're using the bank's money for things that are not revenue generating, even though they're telling you it will be. And ultimately, when you get to the final boss, when you get to the very last thing that they have to sell you, they basically tell you the inside secret of, you're not going to make money in whatever business you came to me to teach you, but you can make money doing what I just did to you to other people. And that's how you create a mini financial influence, because that's basically what Terrence ended up being based on the way that we read this, right?
Exactly.
Terrence basically ended up being a mini him 500, doing this and helping the people in the church fix their credit based on what he learned in the course.
Yes, and that's what I was going to get to next. But go ahead, JT. You building.
No. I'm going to pull it up on
You got something, Tony? You got something, Tony? I see Tony just popped in.
Right.
Nah, man. I'm just sitting back enjoying the show, man. This is the I told you so moment. I'm just sitting back and enjoying you guys cook, man.
Right. So now this is where the credit repair aspect comes into play, right? Because now the guy Sparks and a couple other head associates of the church, they ran the PPP play and the EIDL play 3 times. They got 20,000. So now this is where the criminal mindedness comes into play.
Right.
Because now they go, well, I got a church. Right. So now the same thing that I was able to do for myself, I'm going to now do for the people in the church. So defendant Sparks and his co-conspirators unlawfully obtained over $1 million in PPP loan proceeds through fraudulent loan applications submitted in the names of defendants Sparks' parishioners and associates. To execute the scheme to defraud, defendant Sparks obtained and then subsequently exploited his position of authority as a minister at Faith Walk Ministry. In that position of authority, defendant Sparks worked to secure the trust of Faith Walk Ministry parishioners so that he could have fraudulent PPP loans taken out in their names and enrich himself with the proceeds. In an attempt to conceal his fraud scheme from many of the parishioners, defendant Sparks often told them he was an apostle of God, whose decisions and decrees could not be questioned. Defendant Sparks also had defendant H. Long assure Faith Walk Ministry parishioners that defendant Sparks could be trusted with their personal and financial information. Defendant Sparks often told parishioners that he needed to provide their information, so he needed to be provided the information so that his co-conspirators could fix their credit. On other occasions, defendant Sparks told his parishioners and co-conspirators he needed information to secure funding for the Faith Walk Ministry. Despite these representations, defendant Sparks and his co-conspirators used Faith Walk Ministry parishioners' personal and financial information to take out fraudulent PPP loans in their names for the personal enrichment of the defendant Sparks and the defendant Obote. So they're acting as if they're going to do credit repair. In most cases, they probably fixed your credit. And see, this is how a con man gains your trust. Because what they do is they'll get you some funding. You go, wow, great, he got me some funding. Oh, great, he fixed my credit. But you didn't give him permission to go take out a PPP loan in your name. Or they don't fully describe to you what they're actually applying for. And because most of you are just excited to get some money in your pocket, you're not asking the necessary questions. Number one, no one should be applying for a loan in your name. No one should be filling out an application for you. When I work with my clients for funding, I don't fill out the application for them. They have to speak to the banking representative. The banker will call them and ask them, what does your business do? And they have to then explain what their business does. I don't go out here and fill out the application and submit it for them. The minute that you do that, that is fraud. So for those of you in the funding space who don't know that, now you know. See, this is part of the problem too, is you have people teaching about things that they don't even know is fraud. And seriously, this is how the feds operate, because what happened in most cases is that if I remember Tony was saying this too, if most people knew the amount of time that came with some of the things that they were doing, they probably wouldn't even be doing them.
Right.
A lot of people don't understand what 7 years in jail is. What 10 years in jail is. A lot of people don't know what wire fraud looks like because it's such an innocent crime. It's just you taking money under false pretense or you sending money somewhere.
Right to the bank. It's just you using the banking system. They'll hit you for wire fraud when you get someone to give you money from their bank to your Cash App. That can be wire fraud. It's the easiest thing that they can get you on, because unless you're doing cash in hand, which most of the time you're not, because we're all on the internet now, and you're probably dealing with business with someone that's not even close to you, they can get you on wire fraud.
And what happens is, because it's such just like a seamless transaction, you don't understand the ramifications of what you're doing, because you're like, oh, this guy just wired me money. I just, because the crime is a white collar crime, right? It's not, you're not exerting force to get the money. So therefore you're just signing an application or filling out an application. So when Terrence is doing this, fixing the credit for the people and then turning around and getting them the funding from Navy Federal, he's not thinking about the fact that he's creating multiple instances of fraud. And he's working with an enterprise. He's working with an organization that is also committing acts of fraud. This is why when you run a credit repair company, when you run a funding company, you need to be asking questions, because ignorance of the law is no excuse. Your client's running late. Oh, I'm gonna fill out the application for you. It's okay. You just committed fraud, because that client could then turn around, whether knowingly or unknowingly, and say, you know what? JT filled out that application for me. I didn't do that. Seriously, you're committing fraud.
This is where regulation steps in, and I know people hate regulation, right? Any business owner, we say we don't like regulation because it slows things down. But I can tell you this, when you are actually a licensed professional, they don't simply test you on the function of being a lawyer, the function of being an accountant, the function of being a financial advisor. Yeah, they teach us that, but they also test us on the consequences of us committing crimes, or letting us know what a crime is. They teach us about what you can and can't do, and they let you know the consequence and the time that we could get, not just simply losing our license, right? They tell us what we can get, and we get tested on that. And I feel as if when you have an industry like funding and credit repair that sometimes can be like the Wild Wild West, I feel like, licenses are required, not just simply to let people know, I know my ish, right? Because the license normally lets people know I know my ish because I was tested on it, but it also is a key indicator that I know where going left is, and I know the consequences of going left. So most likely, not meaning that you can't, because there's plenty of attorneys, accountants, lawyers, a bunch of them who have gone left, but they can't stand before a judge and act like they didn't know. That's the difference.
And also too, it removes a lot of the hustle culture out of it, because now you got to earn the right to be there. See, this is part of the problem too, where you have people who learn these little plays. They're not really seasoned or educated in the business of credit repair, in the business of funding. So therefore, they're not looking at the FTC. They're not reading that Fair Credit Reporting Act. They don't know a lot of the things that they're doing. So if a person, because you got to put yourself in the shoes of 19-year-old Eli, 20-year-old Eli. A guy tells me all I got to do is submit this document and I could get $50K. And let's say 2 of my friends go and do that and they get $50,000. Well, then what you think I'm going to do? I'm going to go out here and do the same thing, right? And because a lot of us, we come from disadvantaged backgrounds, because we're not selling drugs and we're not doing anything in the streets, we believe that we're doing something good because we're actually not in the streets doing anything, right? So therefore, we tend to think that, there's nothing wrong with what we're doing something positive. And then people like myself and JT and Tony, when we speak about this, because we're speaking from a place of experience.
There it is.
Right? Experience. right? Understanding and knowing the other side that comes with this. You get labeled as a haters, and this is where EYL comes into play, because people say, well, what does EYL? EYL has everything to do with this, because now what they should be doing is bringing on professionals and saying, okay, educate us on what is the Fair Credit Reporting Act? Like, what are these laws that all of these credit repair people are talking about? And where could the consumer actually go be able to fact check these things? Because see, you have to be able to research the researcher, the presenter.
Where did they get the information from?
Where did they get
and
the
are
information from?
Are they interpreting the information accurately? Because having information within itself is not enough. If any of y'all have ever bumped into someone who refers to themselves as a Moorish national, whatever, those brothers and sisters, I can tell you this, they got a whole lot of information. They'll pull up their briefcase with a stacks of piece of paper, and they got a lot of information. The problem is they don't know how to properly interpret the information. And when you have licensed professionals, people who have been in the industry, who knows what's going on, you know what won't happen, Eli? Let me show you real quick what won't happen. We have people who know what they're talking about. They won't sit here and hear a HIM 500 give a play-by-play of how to commit bank fraud, and this would not be the reaction. This is the reaction when you don't know what you're talking about.
I'm with him.
Look at him zoom out. Let's just I know I'm petty, but let's just think about this. In this video, HIM 500 just gave a play-by-play of how to commit bank fraud. And when they zoom out of the camera, look at all of the people who are in the room. You got HIM 500, Wall Street Trapper, you got all these guys, the EYL guys, you got all these guys, and every one of them clapping, big fats. None of them just step up, because I'm the nerd. I would have been like, hold on. Everything he just said, he might have been intentionally, he might have been coming from a right place, but factually what he said was wrong. Someone should have stopped this man. But you have a room full of so-called financial influencers, and none of them was able to hear and recognize fraud when it was put out directly in their face. That's a lack of real financial education.
And that's why, for example, like right now, whenever I'm doing a presentation, I pull up the Fair Credit Reporting Act, not because I want to act like I'm smart, act like I'm some know-it-all. I want you to say, I don't trust shit Eli's saying. Nothing that Eli just said to me, I believe it. So I'm going to give you the source and then allow you to go, not only for you to go read it, but then you go take it to an attorney or someone
and verify it.
And verify it. So when we talk about credit repair, it says accuracy of report. Whenever a consumer reporting agency prepares a consumer report, it shall follow reasonable procedures to assure maximum possible accuracy of the information concerning the individual about whom the report relates. So when we talk about repairing your credit, we're talking about inaccurate information, right? Now, just because you get the inaccurate account removed doesn't mean that you still don't owe the account.
Hold on. You're preaching now. Hold on.
Right?
This is the side of credit repair that I hate. And I love the fact that you got integrity and you're saying it. You are 1000% correct. Yes. If one of your creditors, someone that you owe money to, if they put the information incorrect, maybe the account number has a transposition of numbers, it should be 1110 and they got 011, whatever it is. Yes, you can file that report and you can get it removed. But Eli, please say what you just said again.
Just because you get the account removed doesn't mean that you still don't legally owe the debt, right? But see, this is where educating people comes into play about fixing and repairing credit. Like right now on the screen, I have an inaccurate account up there. I don't know if you can share the screen.
No, I'm about to bring it up right now. Give me one second. Give me one second.
So when we bring up this account here, that's negative, you can see that this account is in a collection status. It's in a charged off status. But look at the account number. The account number ends in 3772 ***. This account with Experian is 284 ***. With Equifax, they don't even have an account number. So that's an inaccurate account, because how can three bureaus right? And they're really just credit reporting agencies, they're middlemen. How can they all have 3 different account numbers? Well, then that's an inaccuracy. When you look at the date that the account was opened up, you can't open an account on 6/6/2019 and on 6/1/2019. Clearly, someone has inaccurate information. So that's how now you can compel them and force them to either fix this information or go verify this information, which in most cases, the credit bureaus don't conduct a proper investigation. So they end up just removing the accounts anyway, right? But now, in the event that it gets removed, it doesn't still legally take you away from the responsibility.
You still owe the money.
Okay.
That's why to me, and I think we can agree with this. Real credit repair also comes with changing your financial habits. If you do not change your financial habits, I don't care who you hire to fix your credit. It's like those weight loss shows. You remember The Biggest Loser, Eli?
Yes.
Most of the contestants, when the show is over, when the cameras aren't running anymore, most of them gain the weight back because they didn't actually change their habits for the rest of their lives. They were just changing their habits for the show. And then when the cameras are off and there's no more show and you don't have a private chef and you don't have personal trainers waking you up and working you out, they end up gaining the weight back. And that's what I feel a lot of bad credit repair people set people up for failure, is because you might get that credit report clean, but their financial spending habits hadn't changed and they're just going to get right back in debt and bad credit.
And that's why, again, education's important when presenting information. We're not running some type of a play here. We're using actual laws that was passed by your government. Just like there's a statute for how long the debt can actually stay on your credit report, or you legally are responsible for paying it. And then eventually you're not responsible for it anymore, right? In most cases with debt collectors, most debt collectors are violating the FDCPA, right? There's a lot of laws out here, but what happens is you have people who learn one little statute, right? One little law, and then they embellish, and or they learn how to say you're a victim of sex trafficking and then go file an FTC report. And what happens is it works until then eventually you got 50,000 people claiming that they're a victim.
Everyone's doing it now.
Right? Everyone's doing it. And because you were able to get away with it, because you didn't really want to learn consumer law, how to properly fix credit, how to properly repair credit, because it's a hustle to you. It's a play to you. This is why EYL needs to be responsible, because they need to bring a consumer attorney on so that we can decipher fact from fiction, lie from truth, scam from reality.
I'm with you, Eli, but here's the thing, and I think we both know this as well. If they did it, it would be one of the lowest rated episodes in the history of EYL. And I think they know that, because there's not much you can clickbait when you're talking about real financial literacy. Is hard to clickbait. Real financial education and changing your money habits, your relationship with money. There's real professionals that are financial therapists who help people with their relationship with money, because money kind of controls emotions for a lot of people. And there's some people who they have to spend money because it makes them feel a certain way. And until they can identify what that is, and that's a problem in their life, you can give them $50,000, you can give them $50 million. They're going to spend every penny because they have a problem. But the thing is, that's not sexy. That's not cool. You can't do a TikTok dance to that. There's no Instagram reel of, if you make this much money, you need to spend this much money, and you need to make sure that that's not cool and sexy. So then they could have, hey, for all I know, because it's been a while since I saw some EYL content, they could have done 50 shows on that. It's not going to blow up.
Yep. And you know why? Like right now, I got the Fair Credit Reporting Act up. Most people are not going to sit here and read this document to truly understand what's going on, which is why you reach out to a professional or someone to help you. The problem is, like JT was saying, most of these people are guys from prison. They don't know anything about, a fiduciary responsibility, morality clauses. They don't know anything about these things, right? And they don't have any license because they're coming from a position of risking their freedom. So you think they give a damn if they file out some fraudulent paperwork in your name to get something removed? And then guess what? You get something removed, and then 6 months later, TransUnion reaches out to you and say, can you provide us with the actual police report and documentation supporting that you was a victim of sex trafficking? Oh, see, you guys are laughing. I have clients right now that are going through that, where now they're reaching out to them and they're asking them, because see, now you just went to the FTC and you filed a false complaint.
Right.
That's a federal crime. Again, see, we're doing things because it's easy to do, and we're not understanding the severity of what you're doing. When you go and you lie on that document, you're saying you're a victim of sex trafficking, knowing that you're not, and then you're making up some bullshit organization and getting an attestation from them, an Avalon letter, co-signing. Or in some cases, they're finding real organizations and creating a fake letter as if they got it from the org. That is fraud.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you're describing to me is the slippery slope of going into criminality. Because at first they came to something with pure intentions. They want to fix their credit. They want to change their financial reality. All right. You're coming from a place of innocence. But in order to do that, you've got people who are online influencers who tell you, oh, don't worry about it, file this. But then when the comeback comes, when they say, okay, give us proof that you filed this, now they can either give up the ghost and say, you know what, I ain't got it, and back out, which they don't want to do, or they go even deeper into the fraud, and now they're preparing false documents, false tax returns, false police reports that get you even deeper. That is going to get you more time than the actual crime that you committed in the first place. The cover-up is always going to hit you harder than the actual crime.
And again, a lot of these people don't even know that they're committing crimes. Like in the cases with most of these people here, when you look at this right here, the defendant Sparks and defendant Quade defrauded lenders out of hundreds of thousands of dollars by taking out fraudulent loans in the names of the defendants. So defendant Sparks enlisted defendant Quade in his effort as detailed in defendant Sparks' text messages. See, guys, the guy Quade, again, I'm not trying to attack the brother. I'm just coming at it from a realistic approach. He's trying to make it seem as if he didn't know. He was just following him 500 but the text messages say something different. The text messages say something different, right? Because in conspiracy, it's all about your intentions.
Yeah.
What were your intentions when you were doing these things? Were you aware of what you were doing? Did you have any inclination that you may have been getting over on someone? So when they say text messages to steal 21 million from lending institutions by taking out fraudulent loans in the names of his parishioners and associates. So he's saying, Sparks, to Quade, the goal is to steal $21 million.
See, this is where, and I know Dame Dash gets a lot of bad stuff. This is chatty patty type of behavior. Like, isn't it bad enough that you're committing the crime, but to be text messaging your co-conspirators about how good of a crime it is and how much you're going to get? You are not built for crime, right? Shouts out to my brother. He makes content, Heavy Gant. He says, you can't try to commit organized crime when you're not organized. They're trying to be organized criminals with no type of organization, no type of real rules and regulations to do this. And that's why you get caught so easily.
And then look, it says, through their efforts to defraud lending institutions, defendant Sparks and defendant Quade agreed that they would try and squeeze, and notice they put it in quotes, meaning that this is a conversation that these two are having. Try and squeeze as much money out of defendant Sparks' parishioners as they could. Sparks is the head of the church. He's the pastor. Quade is a person he brought on to go do the auto loan play. And they're talking to each other through text messages, and they're saying they want to steal 21 million and they want to squeeze as much as they can from the parishioners. That doesn't sound like a person who's just running a Hen 500 play. That's just oblivious. That sounds like a person that knows that what they're doing may be somewhat in the gray, and they're now going to try to maximize it on the backs of people. This is where now, even if you are a street dude, you're not in the streets anymore. See, now it comes a time when you have to become a grown-ass man and conduct yourself like a grown man. And understand you're doing business. You're not selling crack. You're not selling crack to your father. Those days are over. Right?
You're not Eli, listen, birds. I know we're squares, right? But if someone in the chat can please explain to me, because I can never wrap my mind around this. Even if I was a criminal and I'm running a play with the pastor of a church, the second I hear the pastor of the church talking about his members, the way that he does, saying that they're retarded, they're dyslexic, right? The second I hear that, I think to myself, if you think of the people who come to you as the leader of their faith, right? As a leader for them, the second I turn my back, I know you're going to stick the knife in my back, because how can you do that to them? Same way, a man who's willing to sell crack cocaine to his father, I can't do business with, because if you don't love your father enough to say, you know what, Pops, I'm going to put you in rehab. I'm a drug kingpin, and I know you're strung out on drugs. Instead of selling you crack cocaine, I'm going to put you in rehab. How can I do business with that man? Because if he does not have love for his father, love for the people of your church enough where you're going to do them dirty, the second you have an opportunity to cut me out of the deal or to snitch on me, you will. So street dudes, what are you? I don't get it. Who? I couldn't be a thing because hold on. Shouts out to the credit dude in the building. Credit dudes in the building. Hey, listen. I gotta give credit where credit is due, with no pun intended.
That's a good one.
No pun intended. But credit where credit is due to the credit dude, because he stepped out there, obviously with Tony in the back of the Tony, but he stepped out there and told the truth about podcast payola, DJ Envy, 25% or whatever of his business to promote him on the radio, on the podcast. I'm sure that hurt him financially, because there was opportunities he could have done without doing that, but he stepped out on just telling the truth and what happened. So shouts out to the credit dude, man.
You got anything you want to add, Tony, or you good still?
I wanted to just touch on like two things, man. First off, when you look at what you talked about how they were like becoming mini influencers.
Yes.
How many mini influencers are we now seeing who are making quick little TikTok videos, giving a credit repair tip, and then have a call to action? Hey, comment the word credit repair or comment this, and they're getting thousands of new clients. They're getting thousands of new clients, and they're teaching them fraud. Like, just complete fraud. And then if you look at the structure, like what you talk about from what Eli mentioned when he said, and I think that was a great job, Eli, highlighting how you get somebody who's teaching credit repair that teaches you to play, how to get funding, and then they know exactly how much money you have available in funding because they helped you get the money. And then they set programs around how much money they know you got available in credit. And what makes it more sick, and I just want y'all, because Y'all don't know how niggas think, man. Like, I just gotta call it what it is. Niggas will see, like, for example, and I just use my own brand testimony. As I was driving in my Lexus, nobody paid attention. I got into a Lamborghini, they all paid attention. What even magnified it even more is when I got on $1 million worth of games. When you got that celebrity influence of like a Wallow or a Gilly or any of the connections that they can align you with, niggas follow them like religiously.
Mm.
And I'm talking about like the hip hop culture is something I never really experienced until I got on that podcast, to the extent of how much it moves people. And even to the tune of like where, you know, a lot of these young guys who used to be running, you know, all kind of armed robberies or whatever, now looking at what would seem like a white collar legitimate hustle, where I can go get 50 to 150K. This is where it becomes scary, because they'll look at you like, man, you hating on some shit that's keeping us out the street when we just getting white folks money.
Mm.
And, you know, I grew up in that environment, so I know what it's like when you don't have anything. You grow up where shit, you lucky to see $100, you know, in months as a, you know, man, I think a lot of us have been spoiled with money, and we're kind of out of touch with the reality of what a lot of people don't have, and how tough it is for so many people. So when you get somebody that has no credit, and then this person shows them how to get their credit profile put together, and then shows them how to get their first 10, 20 to 100 grand, and then mentors them into how to use that money to run other plays, right? So I'm gonna show you how to get cars so you can start your Turo business. I'm gonna show you how to create an Airbnb. So in this person's mind, as they're committing multiple acts of fraud, they're unaware that they're committing fraud, but they're falling in love with that person, because this person is now in their mind showing them how to legitimize and run a good business. And now these people start saying, hey, look, the next step is I can put you in my 1% club, where I can show you how to become an influencer and how to really blow this shit all the way up, but using celebrity likeness and things of that nature. And I'm gonna charge you 25 plus K for that. And then, you know, you now do exactly what I did to get to where I am. That's been the play.
Right.
Right.
That's my. I refer to that as the final boss, Tony. That's the final boss. After all the upcharges, you started out with a free webinar. Then you went from the free webinar to maybe a $5 ebook. Then you went from the $5 ebook to the thing that's $2,000 course, the $5,000 course, the one-on-one coaching, then the mastermind. The final boss is when they finally pull back the curtain. You see that the Wizard of Oz really don't have the powers that you thought the Grand Wizard of Oz had, right? And at the end of the day, you look up and you say to yourself, what can I do? And they say, you are now going to become an influencer, and you're going to do all the things I just did to you. That's how you're going to make your money. That's the final boss.
And JT, I want to just add another thing, man, is during COVID, I just want to be clear, because I think this is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
During COVID, there were opportunities where my brand at that point was as hot as it could be. I'm on $1 million worth of game. I'm with Shaq. I'm with all of the guys. Like, it's blowing up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's opportunities coming left and right, from cryptocurrency offers, where people were asking me to promote products or things, whatever, for pay,
Right.
to funding, where people were getting their clients funding from, you know, using different financial companies, putting
Mm-hmm.
people in debt, essentially. and I'm sitting in these groups with all the guys, all of the Atlanta guys, the whole crew.
Right.
And this was the moment that I realized I'm not operating with the same type of mentality that you guys have, because I'm still concerned about who my audience is and their well-being and them being in the best possible position coming out. And you guys are sounding predatory as fuck. And I'm telling them in the meeting, like, you guys sound like fucking predators. Like, this is crazy, nigga. Like, you talking about putting somebody in 25K of debt in the middle of COVID where there's so much uncertainty. I was like, I just can't respect that. And I'm like, I'm backing away from you guys because that shit don't sit well with me.
And listen, it couldn't have been easy other than morals, because the money was ridiculous. Like, do you remember the type of numbers they were throwing out to promote pump and dump cryptos? Like, those numbers was ridiculous.
I mean, I can just tell you, I turned down a couple $100,000 myself.
But like, just like a post on Twitter, just post this link on Twitter, and it's like $100,000 to post so and so coin.
Well, at the time, I owned the Bored Ape, right? So I had a lot of influence in just like the black space, in their opinion, with you know, being a person that owned a Bored Ape. So they were trying to get me to promote different products, but just me and Eli communicating so much, he would always be like, that's a scam. Because I always would go back and verify with Eli. I'd be like, hey, bro, what's up with this or what's up with that? He's like, hey, bro, don't touch that. That's a scam. And like, you know, for me, I'm so conscious of like who my audience is and what I want. I want to see somebody win and be able to have a testimonial from me. Like, to me, to see somebody talk shit about me is offensive. So I'm trying to make sure my people win. And a lot of people, you know, it's sometimes challenging when you got black customers, but like the goal is to get as many people taken to newbie to being able to do a deal as possible. And even
you breaking up a little bit, Tony. Yeah, he was breaking up a little bit.
I want to add something because I see, and this is why I come on here and I make these videos, because I don't do everything that these people are doing. Tony doesn't do everything that these people are doing. See, that's part of the problem. And see, that's what pissed me off. Why I've kind of fell back from making these, because everyone who sells a course is not a scammer.
Right.
Everyone who does credit repair is not a scammer. Everyone who does funding is not a scammer. And this is why it's important for those of you that operate legitimate businesses to come out and speak out. See, you standing by some street code, oh, that's snitching, I ain't gonna say something, you're a fucking idiot. Because you're hurting your business. Because let me tell you what happens. What happens is that the scam gets amplified by the platforms promoting the scam, and then the platforms that's gonna cover the scam. And then now, because no one steps forward and educates people what legitimate credit repair and funding looks like, people say all of you are scamming. Because no one calls out their peers and says, that's unethical. Then people go, I don't want to do no business with none of you. You can lose money in business. You can, for example, you could buy Research in Motion stock. That's the company that made BlackBerry. And 6 months later, Steve Jobs can come out with the iPhone and decimate that business.
Right. There's no fraud there. That's just a reality. It's just a reality of business.
It's business.
Right. Okay? That's what happens with business. And everything you just said, that's the only reason why this YouTube channel exists. Pocket Watching with JT exists because I'm a financial advisor. I'm seeing guys who are giving financial advice look cool, but they were giving bad advice. And I'm not going to allow them to make my profession look like a scam. And that's how this came about.
Yeah, and it can't be all, see, we can't just cover the celebrity that, you know, or the guy who put $50 into Dogecoin and he made a millionaire. What about all of the people who bought Dogecoin at 50 cents, at 40 cents? What about the people who got wiped out from the top, right? If you're going to talk about the person who bought it at the bottom, you got to talk about the people who bought it at the top, right? That's called being fair, right? And letting people know you can make a lot of money and you can lose a lot of money. Letting people know that entrepreneurship, that funding is a double-edged sword. Debt and leverage can amplify your gains, and it can also blow you up, right? Yes. And guess what? You could be the most savvy businessman, and you just get caught in a bad business cycle, right? And one problem becomes the next problem, and boom, you're out of business. Some of the best companies in the world, best brands, are filing Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
Because they got over leveraged.
Because they over leveraged.
They got over. This is what I say to people when it comes to debt. Now, I may sound crazy, Eli, but you let me know. This is what I tell people about debt. Debt is kind of like a drug, okay? Debt is like a drug. If you are prescribed a drug from a doctor because that doctor looked at your situation, your health, and they said, you know what? You have a problem. This drug will help you. They will prescribe the drug to you. They will tell you how much you need to take, the dosage, the regimen of taking that drug, and you're good. But when you self-medicate and you just start popping pills, the drug could help you get to better health the same way that leveraging other people's money could help you financially. But when you do it without the proper supervision and advice, the same drug that could have saved your life can either put you in a horrible financial situation or a horrible health situation, or even kill you and you overdose off that drug. You got to think about debt the same way. If properly done, debt can help your financial situation, but without the proper advice, the proper prescription, knowing when to take it, when not to take it, that debt can absolutely kill you financially.
The Crypto Black just made a comment. He says, I bought a few things from Eli. He's 100% legit. I'm not going to paint myself as I'm some saint and everyone should just do business with me because I'm the Oracle of Omaha. No. When you're conducting business, 10 people may have an amazing experience. 2 or 3 may have a bad experience.
Yep.
What do you do for the 2 or 3 that have a bad experience? See, Apple had an iPhone. It was antenna gate. If you squeeze this was back when I was in college. If you squeeze the phone too tight, it would lose service. What Apple did, they issued the little band that you could put around the phone. They had issues with bend gate. The phones were too thin with the bezel. If you put it in your pocket, it would bend and break. They started issuing you refunds. I have a policy with my clients. If I can't get your credit fixed and repaired within 120 days, I give you back your money. If I cannot get you funded within 120 days, I give you back your money. Yeah. If for any reason you sign up and my staff drops the ball, we give you back your money. It's not about being perfect. It's about when you do something wrong, what accountability do you have in place to make the customer whole? Because not every customer gets the same experience.
Yeah. I have like doctors and attorneys have malpractice insurance for a reason. Financial advisors, we have errors and omissions insurance. What does that mean? That means most likely out of hundreds and hundreds or even thousands of clients over the years, I'm going to mess up. There's going to be an error. I'm a transposition a number. Something might not get filed on time, and there's a lot of deadlines on certain things, especially working with the IRS. I tell clients all the time, listen, I'm not perfect. If something happens, you don't have to worry. I have insurance premiums that I paid for errors and omissions insurance, and I will fix the problem. If you get a penalty with the IRS based on something that I did wrong, it's going to get paid. Because I got errors in omission insurance, I pay it out of pocket. It's not a big deal because we know the realities of life. You can't call and it's funny coming from the pocket watching because maybe they look at it differently. I don't think everything is a scam, but there's a lot of things that are. And if you don't properly do business, you're going to be in a situation where you are a scammer. Great businesses don't mean that they don't make mistakes. They don't have errors. They don't slip up things. Bad products go out. Just like what Eli was saying, you can tell a good and legit business based on how they react to something that they put out that's bad. What steps do they take to rectify it? Do they even have an already set procedure of what they're going to do other than saying no refunds, no refunds? Like when it's just no refunds, don't worry about it, and they block you. That's the behavior of a scammer, but someone that's going to be like, okay, here's the process. You fill out this form. We'll get back with you. We'll review everything and we'll make sure that you're whole. We'll get you back to where you were as best as we can. That's what you got to do.
And now in the case of, you have a pastor who's operating from an entrepreneurial standpoint, but using faith to get you in there. See, that's a conflict of interest now, right? Going back,
undue influence is what we call it. Undue influence,
right? Because now, in the event that something goes wrong, what means does he have to remedy the problem, right? If you're taking out a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 loan, and now he's giving your information to another individual that you don't even know is a part of the deal, conflict of interest. Right? See, this is why ethics matters in business, because I'm pretty sure he didn't disclose to the parishioners that he would be sharing this information with the guy Terrence. And see, the guy Terrence, I guarantee you didn't ask, hey, do these people know that you're giving me their information? Because that in itself right there is fraud. Yeah. And this is why we got to get beyond I'm running the play. Don't try to tear a black man down. No, how you purport yourself and conduct yourself matters. What you post on social media matters, because if you're standing in front of a Cullinan with a rollie on, right, talking about you, him, I might buy a course from you on how to be a rapper, how to be an entertainer, how to market, but I damn sure ain't going to give you my credit information, and damn sure ain't going to allow you to open up no $100,000 loan in my name. That ain't going to happen.
All right. Ben, people are asking for your contact and the information. Eli, let them know how they can reach you.
You can reach me on Instagram, Common Sense Eli. There are a lot of fake pages of me. Yes. It is Common Sense Eli, COMMONSENSEELI. Not 3 M's, not
no underscores,
no underscores, no periods. It is Common Sense Eli. That's on Instagram. And then on YouTube, you can follow me at What Happened to Common Sense. I will be live tomorrow talking about what's going on with Dame Dash and his tax issues. Because again, this goes back to EYL, brings him on a platform. He talks all of this boss mogul stuff. Well, if the boss mogul stuff isn't working for the boss, then why should you be listening to it? See, this is where, again, it's not hating. It's talking about what happens when you take a person up on their offer and the bottom falls out, like what's happening right now with the Navy Federal play. Again, getting a loan from Navy Federal is not fraud if you do it as an individual. If you do not grossly misrepresent, we're not talking about you say you make 90,000 and you really make 70. No, we're talking about you don't even have a job. You have no source of income. And you're going on here talking about you make $150,000 a year. That is absolutely across the board categorically false. That is fraud, right? And it's important that you guys start to understand there's a huge difference between going and getting a loan yourself. Business funding is legitimate. There are tons of different programs out here for you to go get funding for your business. If you want to partner with a funding company or person, that's completely different than someone filling out applications on your behalf and not even telling you how much money they got for you. Right? And understand, anytime someone's doing something in your name, even your credit repair, you need to ask questions and know what they are submitting on your behalf, because ignorance of the law is no excuse. And many of these brothers and sisters are just criminals who went from the street, who now came onto the internet. They don't have a lot of professional etiquette, and they're not savvy when it comes to conducting and doing business. Now, am I sitting up here saying that people who went to jail and who came from the streets cannot better themselves? No, I'm not saying that. But part of bettering yourself is bettering your mindset, is bettering your mentality, is bettering your ethics. It's not just about trying to flip into a new hustle. You have to also change how you conduct yourself in business. And you cannot look at people as if they're just a flip, right? There has to be a human on the other side understanding I'm working with another human. Right. Things will always happen in business. Things may go left. How do you respond when things go left? How do you respond to your customers when maybe you misrepresent something or you say things inaccurately? These are things that you need to think about. These videos are not to tear down, but to edify, to educate, so that you can be better. I'm not perfect. Guess what? If I'm out of line, if I do something that's wrong or something that I may not even intentionally mean to do, my community should be able to hold me accountable. And it should not be looked at as hate. It should not be looked at as clout chasing. See, it's clout chasing when you interview the celebrity, you get the money, and then when the fallout happens, you just move on to the next topic. See, that's clout chasing because you got the clout, right? But you skirted the responsibility. You got all of the benefit, but therefore your viewers, they got all of the hell. So I could preach for long enough. I'm gonna rest my case here. Guys, there is responsibility with funding, with money. And you best believe when you're going in these banks, please make sure that you do your best to represent yourself in an ethical, honest, legitimate way, because the banks are not going to take these losses. If you think that these banks are going to take billions of dollars of losses and just move on, Navy Federal is suing people right now. They're suing people right now as we speak, right? And just because you can get it off your credit doesn't mean that they won't sue you and have you in court. Peace, JT.
Yes, sir. Hey, listen, for everybody out there, if you want to reach out to Tony, if you want to reach out to Eli or myself, there are a lot of bots. Let me be extremely clear. If there is a TikTok profile or Instagram profile and they reach out to you first, be it me, Tony, Eli, whatever, I'm telling you right, we're not going to reach out to you first. That's not how this works. We will never reach out to you first. So if someone's in your DM and their profile picture looks like me or looks like Eli up here or it looks like Tony, it's not me, Eli, or Tony. We're not reaching out to you first. So that's going to be a red flag, number one. Number two of my point here is if you're watching this video right now, I'm going to have Eli and Tony's legitimate contact information in the description of this video. Okay, that way you know you're actually going to go to their real page. I'm gonna have it. It's not there right now while we're live, but the second I'm off here, I'm gonna plug in their actual contact information. But here is Eli's Instagram, but a bot can clone this in a second, so don't just go off of that, right? And then I'm gonna bring up Tony's real quick so you can see what Tony's looks like. But I'm going to actually put a link to their actual contact information in the description of this video. We've gone over 2 hours. I was going to take calls, but it's too long. I will be back Monday night. If there's something that you wanted to add or you want to talk, Monday, Wednesday, Friday nights is when I usually go live. You can hit me up then. I appreciate each and every one that came through. Everybody who either joined in the membership, gave a super chat. I appreciate it. If you have some sort of financial influencer, some sort of company that's asking for an investment and you want me to vet it for you, we can vet it live right here on the show. Just put the information in the chat, comment on this video, or you can go to my website and you can email me the information directly from my website, which is pocketwatcher.net. I appreciate you guys. The Pocket Watcher is out.
Hey, Pocket Watchers, thanks for watching. Go to www.pocketwatcher.net for free financial tips and resources. Take the free personal finance quiz to get a projected budget and more, or enroll in Pocket Watcher Academy for free. Get step-by-step lessons on personal financial planning. Learn how to budget, save, and pay off debt. It's all free at www.pocketwatcher.net. Are you looking for real financial advice? Thornton Financial is here to help. Certified financial planner Jayson Thornton specializes in tax and wealth planning. Are you living paycheck to paycheck with no retirement plan? Do you need help with the IRS? Book your free consultation with Thornton Financial today. Budgeting, savings, debt management, and retirement. Even tax debt settlements. Get the advice you need to live your best life. Book your free consultation appointment today. Go to www.thornton-financial.com.